Snowflakes drifted lazily over downtown Toronto, their crystalline shapes catching the glow of street lamps. For Barry's Arctic, arriving in Canada felt like stepping into another world. If you liked the video, please subscribe and comment. He had come for a film festival, an international screening of his latest project, but secretly, he craved more than the applause of critics. Somewhere deep in his heart, he hoped for a spark of something he hadn't felt in years, love that could change the course of a life. Barry's had just left the Tiff Bell Lightbox Theatre when he noticed her. Across the street, wrapped in a long burgundy coat, stood Elçin Sangu. She wasn't supposed to be there, at least not according to the guest list. Yet, there she was, radiant against the cold, her fiery red hair glowing under the snowy night. Elçin had come to Canada for a different reason. A short indie film she had worked on with a friend was being screened in Montreal, but she had extended her trip to explore Toronto. Fate, however, had other plans. Their eyes met in that accidental way strangers sometimes connect, but this wasn't ordinary. Time slowed. The bustling crowd faded. And for a moment, it was just Barry's and Elçin, two souls caught in the gravity of each other's presence. He crossed the street, snow crunching beneath his boots. "Toronto suits you," Barry said in Turkish, a gentle smile playing on his lips. Elçin laughed softly, her breath clouding the frosty air. "And it suits you, too. But I didn't expect to find you here." "Neither did I," he admitted. "But maybe that's the point. Sometimes the best meetings are the ones we don't plan." Over the next week, they wandered through Old Montreal, strolled along the frozen edges of Lake Ontario, and shared coffee in small Canadian cafes that smelled of roasted beans and cinnamon. Barry's found himself fascinated not just by Elçin's beauty but by her humor, her intelligence, the way she saw the world with a mix of realism and wonder. Elçin, in turn, admired his quiet strength, his kindness, and how his laughter seemed to melt even the coldest Canadian nights. One evening, as they walked under the glittering lights of the Distillery District Christmas market, Elçin stopped and turned to him. "Barry's, do you ever think about destiny?" "All the time," he said. "I think destiny is the reason you're standing in front of me right now." She smiled, but her eyes carried a softness that revealed her heart was already fighting a battle she wasn't ready to name. Their days in Canada felt like magic, but reality waited for them across the Atlantic. Both were stars in Turkey, their lives scrutinized under cameras and headlines. Love in secret was beautiful, but could it survive under the spotlight? One afternoon, while sitting in a quiet cafe in Quebec City, Elçin sighed. "We live in two different worlds, Barry's. You know what people will say if they find out." He reached across the table, taking her hand. "Let them talk. They don't know us. They don't know this. But they will judge," she whispered. "They always do." He squeezed her hand tighter. "Elçin, I'd rather fight the world with you than win it without you." As the festival days ended, Barry's was scheduled to fly back to Istanbul. Elçin, too, had a return ticket. But something about leaving Canada felt like tearing pages out of a book unfinished. On their last night, they walked to the Niagara Falls. Mist rose like silver smoke, and the roar of cascading water drowned out the rest of the world. Barry's wrapped his coat around her shoulders. "Elçin, this can't end here. I don't care about borders, headlines, or schedules. I care about you." She looked into his eyes, her heart racing, torn between fear and desire. "Then prove it, Barry's. Prove that this is more than just a Canadian winter story." Without hesitation, he kissed her, deep, lingering, filled with promise. The falls thundered behind them, as if nature itself celebrated the union. Back in Turkey, reality struck harder than either expected. Rumors spread, tabloids speculated, and directors questioned their focus. But instead of breaking them, the pressure only revealed the depth of their bond. Bari sent her little reminders of Canada, a snow globe from Niagara, a scarf from Montreal, a pressed maple leaf. Each gift whispered, "I haven't forgotten. I won't let go." Elçin, meanwhile, supported him through his toughest days, reminding him of the peace they had found in Canada's snowy nights. A year later, they returned. Not as strangers, not as uncertain companions, but as lovers who had endured storms together. This time, they walked hand in hand through the streets of Vancouver, their laughter echoing against the mountains. Tourists snapped pictures of the famous duo, but for Barış and Elçin, Canada wasn't about fame. It was about beginnings. It was about the place where destiny had whispered their names together. On the final evening overlooking the Pacific Ocean, Barış knelt with trembling hands. From his pocket, he pulled a ring, simple, elegant, timeless. "Elçin Sangu," he said, his voice steady despite the racing of his heart, "Canada gave me you. And I never want to lose that gift. Will you marry me?" Tears sparkled in her eyes as she nodded, too overwhelmed for words. "Yes, Barış. 1,000 times yes." Their love story became more than just headlines. It became a testament that true love can be found in unexpected places, sometimes in a foreign land, sometimes in a snowy street, sometimes in the unplanned crossing of two paths destined to meet. Barış and Elçin would forever carry Canada in their hearts, not just as a country but as the beginning of their forever. Because some love stories aren't written in scripts or novels. Some are written in snowflakes, waterfalls, and promises kept. They walked back from the seawall like kids who'd just broken into summer. Vancouver glittered, ferries carving neon trails across the inlet, the mountains wearing a thin halo of mist. Elçin kept glancing at the ring, then at Barış, like she was checking if joy could be verified by physics. "Call your mom," she said, nudging him with her shoulder. "You first," he grinned. They took turns on FaceTime from a quiet bench near Granville Island. Mothers cried happy tears, cousins screamed, friends launched voice notes like confetti. Their publicists, however, were publicists. "We can craft a joint statement," one texted. "Soft launch the news with a candid," said another. "Please avoid any paparazzi-heavy zones for 48 hours. "Too late," Barış murmured, spotting a familiar long lens glint across the street. Elçin laced her fingers with his. "Let them get the photo, then let them get the truth." They posted a single image hours later, two hands, one maple leaf, a ring catching the late sun. Caption: "Canada did a thing." The internet combusted, then softened. The comments turned into a blanket they could tuck around themselves when the night went windy. That evening, they celebrated small, hot chocolate in paper cups, a shared bowl of poutine they both admitted was chaotic but addictive, and a slow walk back to the hotel. In the elevator mirror, they saw two people who looked less like celebrities and more like co-conspirators in something gentle. "Tomorrow," Barış said, "we pick a date." "Tomorrow," she echoed, "we start a life." Tomorrow turned into airports. Istanbul. Izmir. Sets, scripts, meetings. Between time zones, they lived in voice notes, those little capsules of breath and heartbeat. Their calendars looked like a war game.